Today I'm going to react to a ShoeOnHead video where she poses the question, why are men moving right? And this is a trend we've seen in the last decade or so online where men are being pushed to the right, women becoming more progressive, and this gender divide in terms of politics is just getting wider and wider. So why are men being pushed to the right? Let's get straight into the video.
Hello everyone, and happy 1-year anniversary to my male loneliness epidemic video. I'm happy to announce that since that video uploaded, the discourse has greatly improved. People all around the world are taking men's issues more seriously, and the gender war has finally come to an end. Just kidding, everything has gotten worse and nobody has learned anything. From the witches on The View—
I don't think this is true completely. I think the left are getting better, they've got a long way to go, but things are moving slowly, and I think people are realizing, hopefully now more than ever, that we can both take men's issues seriously and women's, and be a feminist. We're not against men, we're not against women. We can look at both men and women and go, what are your issues? And listen to them and take them seriously.
cackling about how men are useless.
Do we need men?
Men are useless.
To women on
This is double-edged sword. This is sometimes how women cope with things. They use humor, but also it can easily turn into hate. And both men and women bitch about each other. We do. I think that's natural. And anytime a man makes a comment about a woman, we're very tetchy, and it's kind of like, I understand it from both ways. We are very divided, and I think it's going to get better. But I think we're in a moment where, over the last hundreds of years, men have ruled, and now women are getting more power. There's going to be tension, and I think things are going to get better, but maybe they get worse before they get better, and we will hopefully see each other and go, yes, I understand you. Now we can listen and be better at recognizing that these men's issues shouldn't be a right-wing issue. It's been ceded to the right. It's almost as much as a left-wing issue as feminism is. I think we need to be listening to men.
online saying they'd rather be stranded in the woods with a bear than a man.
Would you rather be stuck in a forest with a man or a bear?
The bear. Bear.
It seems that things have gotten more toxic than—
But again, we need to take women's issues seriously. If women do have very legitimate concerns about men attacking them, men potentially being a threat, women have that constant worry that if they're walking home at night, if they're alone with a man, what is the potential threat? Because he could kill that woman very easily. Statistically, very unlikely. But again, it works both ways. We can listen to men's issues and listen to women's issues. That's the problem here, I think.
ever, and the gender divide couldn't be any wider, especially politically.
In 2008, 58% of young people leaned Democratic. 2012, 53%. And in the last two major election years, that percentage held steady at 55%. But in 2023, that number dipped below 50% for the first time since 2005. And you'll notice right here, they've started to lean more Republican. And that's partly because of one specific group: young men.
Okay, I know I said I was gonna focus on the gender war and not talk about politics for a while. However, I found a loophole. Politics is talking about gender war. With this election being hailed—
You can't separate the political landscape from why men are moving right. There's a reason why men are moving to the right. And I think it's because of the economic failure of capitalism. The job market, unemployment, low-skilled labor, housing prices, cost. There's real issues. And our politics in the last few years has become more divided. So people are going either further to the right, or you could argue further to the left. And there's that real divide. And that comes from people's living standards. We need to make people's lives better, men's and women's, because women are doing well. Women are doing better on average education. They're getting better careers, higher paid jobs. Women, on average, still problems. We need to also think about men's issues as well and go, okay, education for young boys, training, what jobs, what's the job economy going to be like? Because we're not talking about that in the UK. What high skilled jobs are the future of the economy in the UK? Conservatives aren't having that conversation because they don't care either. They've got a simple narrative. They're appealing to men, but they don't have the answers. They don't have real answers. And the left need to up their game and start to talk about where are we going with the economy? What is the role of men? And how can we bring men over?
By the media as the man versus woman election. According to any and all data coming out recently, men all around the world have shifted more right, and women have shifted more left. But women going more left was not the focus of this month's outrage. The outrage, of course, was about men. That's right, we got our yearly, oh no, what is happening to men? Why are they moving to the right freak out. But unlike last year, this freak out isn't solely happening on the internet, no. It's also happening in Washington, D.C.
There are only 46 days until Election Day, and the Harris-Walz campaign is struggling to appeal to a group of voters that could determine the outcome of the election, and that is men.
The Harris campaign is making an aggressive last-minute effort to win over younger male voters.
Am I really gonna make a video criticizing the Democrat Party days before the election? Of course I am! Now before you celebrate or grab your pitchforks, this is not a pro-Trump video. This is a do-better video. This is a mommy's not mad, she's disappointed video.
See, this is one of the big problems of talking about men's issues, is that it's been seeded by the right, and for a lot of people on the left, they find it difficult because they don't want to play into that. And that shouldn't be the case. By leaving it to the Conservatives, they've swooped in and they've taken men's rights, as in, like, they've seeded it, they've got it, they've won men over. And we need to go, okay, we can look at both men's issues and women's issues and see how they're connected and how often men's and women's issues are deeply interconnected. People are lonely under capitalism. We're more atomized and fragmented than ever. Again, the economy, cost of living, housing, people aren't having families in the same way. People are exhausted, they're burnt out, they're working constantly just to, get by. These are common things that both, yes, they've got specific issues, but we need to be not letting the right just take this because they don't have the answers.
Actually, I lied. Mommy's pretty mad. In this video, I am going to be addressing the Democrats' so-called man problem, the recent discourse about men moving right, the last-minute pandering the Democratic Party is doing to get them back, what they could be doing instead, and of course, going over some terrible opinions. Not my opinions. I have never had a bad opinion in my life. Except that one opinion. We don't talk about that one opinion. In a world where it seems like everything men do and like is toxic, from eating meat to working out to even having a beard. Oh wait, that reminds me. Before we get into this video, let's quickly give a shout out to today's video sponsor, Henson Shaving. If you've used a multi-blade razor, you're probably I have been documenting the internet and society in general's growing and widely accepted hatred of men. This has been happening for a very long time. And if you dare spoke up about it, you were called an incel or a pick-me, depending on your gender. But seemingly, almost out of nowhere, there has been a change of heart.
You know, I think men are in crisis, actually, in this country. I think that plays out different ways. But I think we need to have a real conversation about that.
Wow, that's interesting. Mainstream media talking about this? I wonder why they care so much now. Democrats fear Harris losing too many male voters to Trump. Oh. Signs have been mounting that for the first.
Okay, so you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So you're not appealing to men and then, they're appealing to men to get votes. Well, that's what Donald Trump did. He consciously made that decision to go on Joe Rogan, go and talk to these right-wing podcasts to appeal to young men. But now it's, okay, too little too late, maybe, but that's the thing, it's...
first time in recent decades, Democrats may lose majority support from young men in 2024. The risk to Democrats is that this is not just a one-time fluke, but an indication of growing trouble with men in coming elections. Democrats can celebrate the support they are getting from young women, but they also need to take the disaffection of young men seriously, engage them directly, and respond to the visions of manhood and masculinity that Donald Trump and JD Vance are offering. Alright, Kamala, you got 2 weeks to reverse anti-male propaganda and resentment fueled by our government, media, and institutions. How you gonna do it? Harris campaign creating space for white dudes. Oh, that's a great idea. I mean, a little too late, but I'm glad you're finally doing to be honest about role in history. Oh. It's always a space for white men to talk about how much they suck.
What made you start this group, White Dudes for Harris? And I suspect some of it has to do with the polling.
Yeah, for far too long, the left has essentially ceded white men to the MAGA right. There's large parts of the left who have gone out of their way to alienate white men over the last couple of years. And that's understandable in many ways. We decided that we wanted to create space for white men to be a part of electing Vice President Harris.
At the top of the call, White Dudes for Harris organizer Ross Morales Roquito said he wanted to address what he called the elephant in the room, criticism surrounding an event organized for white men given the country's history of racism. A lot of people felt uncomfortable about the call, he said. Throughout American history, when white men organized, it was often with pointy hats on. They can't even have their gay little Zoom call where they circle jerk about hating themselves without their own movement going, yikes! A bunch of white males in one space? Seems kinda like the KKK. Black people can have their little groups and that's fine, but if a bunch of white people get together, well, that's just called breadtube. Never mind. White Dudes for Harris. I mean, she's doing pretty bad with Latinos, too. What's next? Hombres con Harris? Oh. So basically...
Yeah, I mean, isolating to white men, that's not the way to do it. It's kind of... It needs to be organic. You need to actually genuinely want to... But that's the problem. Even on the right, they don't care about men. They know that they're just cynically kind of get the votes. Empty promises. Trump isn't going to help men. He's not going to make men's life better. So you've got to actually genuinely want to listen to men and go, okay, what are the problems? Listen to them. Go, sit down with men and go, what are your issues? Because it's going to be diverse. There's going to be different issues for different demographics and different races and ages and geographies. Obviously, men are not a monolith. So, yeah, men are going to have different concerns. And we're kind of treating them like they are a monolith. And again, men are going to have very, very different, again, even with class as well. Working class men are going to have way different. And they're definitely, in the UK, America, they are buying into the populism. So the left need an alternative. And, you know, we have had it in the past, but people didn't want it.
Basically, men are leaving the Democratic Party in droves, and it's not looking too good for the Democrats. So it wasn't long until everyone's favorite discourse hit Twitter again. If Kamala loses, which is very possible, there needs to be a real discussion about how Democrats speak to and reach young men. If Kamala loses. If she wins, there doesn't have to be a discussion. We shouldn't change anything. Clearly, we're doing everything right. To be clear, I'm not saying we need to worry about women less or change any positions. I'm saying the polling...
See, this is the thing. I understand the caveat, because again, you need to, because you do fall into that Andrew Tate and right-wing, often misogyny, like hatred of women. But we should be able to just talk about men's issues and go, right, we're talking about men's issues now. Some people will be like, well, what about women? They're lonely too. They're, economically disenfranchised. Yeah, they many are. But now we need to focus on men and go, right, we're going to listen to men and start talking about mental health, suicide rates, a crisis of identity, what it means to be a man. When for hundreds of years, men were defined by their role as a provider, a labourer, a worker. What it means to be a man there is very different, and that's okay to have that discussion. That's okay.
Around young men is concerning, and if it turns out to be true, we need to have a discussion about how condescending we are coming off to a huge part of the electorate. To be clear, I'm not saying we have to change anything, I'm just wondering why men aren't voting for us. What? I am gonna regret posting this so hard. And oh boy did he, the replies were insane, to say the least. I must admit, I cringed reading most of this. I feel that one thing you didn't address is the systemic entitlement bestowed upon white men in the US. That sense of entitlement, that privilege they felt for eternity, is eroding. Systemic entitlement they have felt for eternity? They're like 22 years old! The f-
But we can talk about both of these things. That is true. There is a systemic entitlement of men on the right. They feel entitled to women's bodies, to sex. We can talk about both issues and take both of them seriously. It's not a zero-sum game, but now everything is. Like race, oh, black people are having more opportunities, women are having more opportunities. No, we can talk about both issues. Men and women both benefit from being happier, having more power, having more chances in life. They do. It's not a zero-sum game.
do you mean eternity? Who is this, like, 200-year-old man? So, young men are snowflakes with hurt fifis because they're not the center of attention anymore. Got it. So, are they poor little snowflakes, boo-hoo, or are they scary fascists that are gonna turn America into the Handmaid's Tale? Because they can't be both. You either care about the future, or you don't. You cannot simultaneously hand-wave away men moving to fascism, but also fearmonger about it. Hi, man here. Maybe men just need to stop being absolute pieces of dog shit? It seems like the easiest thing to do, right? I don't feel alienated.
But there are men who are absolute pieces of dog shit, as there are with women. And we've got to be able to talk about both, but not in essentialist terms. We're not talking about men as this. Men are inherently violent, evil, misogynistic. And the same with women. There are horrible women out there. Plenty of horrible women. And we need to talk about it more. But we need to have a balance between how we approach this. And I think, again, there's a lot of concerns women have about hateful men. And on the opposite side, women can be bitches too. So we need to listen to both sides.
Are uncomfortable with democratic messaging because I'm not a complete wannabe fascist cheese dick incel loser who thinks he's the good guy. Reddit and its consequences have been a disaster for the male race. They just need to get off their asses, stop playing video games, and get real jobs. First of all, what real jobs? These guys are coming out of college with useless diplomas and there are no jobs. Also, what an out-of-touch boomer-ass take. Get off your ass and stop playing those video games from the generation who watches.
There is an element of truth to that. Like, there is low expectations for men. Men kind of get away with a lot. But also, she's right that what jobs are there for a lot of men? Like, the economy in the UK is pretty awful. It's dead outside London, especially in America. You know, most of America outside of the cities, the economies are dead. Like, what opportunities are there for men? Because capitalism isn't providing that. It isn't. It can't. With automation, it's only going to get worse over the few decades. So, yeah, really, we're talking about, when we're talking about men and women, we're talking about issues of capitalism and the future and what world do we want? What people do, because people are defined by what they do. Like, historically, it was the woman who was raised a family, bear children, and it was the man who would provide. That's changed now. And we need to decide, what are we going to be defined by work? Or can we be defined by something else? Like life, poetry, doing things, creative, dancing, whatever we want to do. Should we just define ourselves and go, as long as they're not harming anybody, we can do what we want. We should have freedom. We shouldn't be ascribed to men or women. Like, what's it mean to be a man, woman? It doesn't matter. Just do what you want to do.
TV 24/7. I don't want to hear it. Tell them to get therapy. Tell them whatever you told or gave to women in the 1950s. They made this bed, let them sleep alone in it. Or be f***ing better men. Any other group of people and it's, oh, boo-hoo, poor baby. Let me rewire all of society so your feelings aren't hurt. And then with men, it's get therapy. Be f***ing better. While there is truth in messaging needs to be better from Democrats as a whole, I reject that telling young men they need to be better is the problem. They are trash in their nature, and if they can't do the work to not be toxic waste of seed, that's on them.
This is gender essentialist thinking. Again, it's reactionary. It's kind of going the other way. It's like doing what men often still do towards women, and just flipping it the right way. It's a reactionary politic against men, as in like men are inherently, essentially violent, rubbish, just destructive, warmongering, all these negative attributes, which are part of men, but there are also very good elements about men. So that's the massive problem on both sides. Essentialism. And gender is, I think, inherently gives that. Like I said just a moment ago, when you ascribe certain values to men and women, historically we have, that is the problem. Like, what are men? Well, men strong, they're stoic, they're leaders, they're providers. Why? I mean, that's not inherent. We've come up with these definitions of man and woman. We need to challenge them and, you know, explode what it means to be a man and a woman and be like, well, you can, again, it should be about freedom.
Vote for my team, by the way. We may not want to hear it, but this is what the data reflects. There is a massive loneliness epidemic in this country, which is disproportionately affecting men. Instead of calling them incels or mocking them, we should be willing to hear out their concerns. Wow, a surprisingly good tweet in a sea of bullshit. That's nice to see. I could be wrong, but I'm assuming you're a straight white man, so yeah, go do something about it. Why are you guys bothering the rest of us with this? I can't figure it out. Because I would like for Democrats to win the election. Why do you care about men suffering? Because I want to win the election. Amazing. This is the issue right here. Start seeing men as people and not numbers in polls. That is step one. You can't even do step one. Anyway, there were thousands of these kind of tweets in response to this guy. You get it. We've seen it all before. If I went through all of them, this video would be 3 hours long. White dudes for Harris wasn't the only strange attempt the Democrats threw out at the last second to get the male vote.
Hey, white dudes. So, I think we're all pretty sick of hearing how much we suck. Every time you go online, it's the same story. We're the problem. And yeah, some white dudes are. Trump and all his MAGA buddies are out there making it worse.
Are you f***ing kidding me? Years of these people saying men suck and are the problem, and now they're like, hey fellow men, are you sick of being told you suck and are the problem? The audacity! Apparently, Kamala Harris has a secret weapon to win over male voters.
Kamala Harris is turning to her running mate, Tim Walz, hoping he is the secret weapon who can chip away at Donald Trump's support from men.
Much like how Trump chose Pence to win over the more establishment Republican voters, Kamala seems to have chosen Tim Walz to try and win over the white male vote. And boy are they trying. Now I don't hate Tim Walz, in fact I was pleasantly surprised when they chose him over Josh Shapiro. I like a lot of his policies, like his universal school lunch policy. That's an amazing policy, you'd have to be an insane freak to disagree with that. Or a libertarian. But I repeat myself. And there were a few times where he was speaking where I completely forgot he was running to be Kamala's VP and not president himself. And he actually brought a lot of energy to the Democratic stage for once. So what the f*** was this? Putting out a bunch of ads of Tim Walz changing the air filter in a car, clumsily shooting a gun, and drawing a political football play-by-play. Trotting out Walz like some kind of minstrel show of a white man. Like a man dressing up like a man for Halloween. You don't gotta do all this, bro, I promise you. And they don't shy away about how that's exactly what they are trying to do. Tim Walz is clearly a Midwest man's man, but he's the antidote to toxic MAGA masculinity. Despite his typically masculine resume as a Midwestern football coach and veteran, Walz is utilizing those qualities to push forward a more progressive, compassion-based form of masculinity. Part of being a vice president is understanding that you are just that, someone who is there to aid and support the president. Walz simply being there on the ticket with a woman and taking a back seat to his running mate, Vice President Kamala Harris, is him embracing his leadership role in a positive, masculine way. Football coach and cheerleader, how Tim Walz is defining masculinity. Amy Deal, a sexism researcher and author of the 2023 book Glass Walls, told USA Today that men like Walz who are intentional about rejecting traits and beliefs commonly dubbed as toxic masculinity are the tonic to harmful stigma associated with expectations of men and boys. He shows
I think Tim Walz is great. I think if he was running for president, he would have actually had a chance. He's naturally charismatic, he seems authentic, and he cares about people. He does. There was interviews when he was talking to men about their concerns about farming, trade unions, and he seems like a genuine person. And I think he would have done really well on Joe Rogan. And this kind of cynical PR ploy of like, we'll use him, it needs to be somewhat organic. And people need to see that actually, yeah, again, we do care about men's issues. We care about women's and men's issues, and we're going to treat them equally. We're going to look at them and go, yeah. But, yeah, it seems like they have been quite cynical in how they've picked Tim Walz and not kind of really used him to his best potential, because he's a great speaker. He really is good. When he called Elon Musk a dipshit, that was the best bit. We need more edginess. Like, I know he's a soft guy, but also fighting back against, you know, Donald Trump and JD Vance, being a bit stronger. Because again, strong isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's not inherently. Strength is a good thing. And it's fighting for what you believe in, compassionate, being empathetic and helping people. That's what they should be talking about. Like, being a man isn't about being selfish or just doing things for yourself. I'm all right, Jack mentality, the individualistic mentality. It's about helping people out.
You can be masculine, but also not threatened by women as equals or women who are in positions of power. In fact, you can be cheerleaders for them. Notice the common theme here: taking a back seat, cheerleading. Like 5 different articles I read specifically use this word cheerleading. Even a few about Kamala Harris's husband, Doug. God knows we need an antidote for all the lousy men in the news, and I think I found one. A lovable goofball who is happy to cheerlead for his wife, the Vice President of the US. Thank God for Doug Emhoff. Successful guys can...
But what they cheerleaded in, she didn't represent anything. After the initial excitement of her announcement to be the DNC candidate, after a while it was like, oh, she started to talk like a politician. She didn't actually represent anything. So what's there to cheerlead? There's no values there. That's the problem. It's not like, oh, you know, yeah, they're not appealing to men, but they're not appealing to everybody. They're not appealing to normal working people.
Support their wives and be respected. You don't have to be the quarterback to play the game at an elite level. Emhoff and his breed of dudes who are giving it their best shot may never be as come hither to lost young men as the militant Andrew Tate models of manhood, but they are out there, and, not unlike good husbands, will appear when they are needed. From the outside looking in, the right promises young men a return to the good times, of the glorious past. You know, the one your grandfather had. The Coca-Cola ad rose-tinted version of the past. Back when you can afford a house and support a family on one income. While the left, which historically, in my opinion, had the policies to make that happen, are instead trying to sell men a vision of the future. And well, the future is female. A future where you're no longer playing the game, men. You're on the sidelines being a cheerleader. Doesn't that just sound so exciting? Like, what the hell?
And it's not inevitable. Again, gender, race, sexuality, it's not a zero-sum game. The fact that if women have more influence, that men lose out. No, they don't. Everyone's better off. If you're just having one person who does everything, or one demographic, white middle-class males, why? Like, life's boring then. You don't want just one person. And also, that impacts them because it makes it seem like, oh, they're inherently better somehow. Whereas when you have just spread it around, yeah, women should be celebrated. But so should men as well. We can do both. But we live in that zero-sum game world now where everything's kind of black and white. And I think with this, it's just not the case. It's like men and women are equal. That's what we should be fighting for.
What is going on inside these DNC consultant meetings? I really gotta know. Does anyone have any ideas on how to appeal to young men? And please, for the love of God, do not say we have to offer them anything or change in any way. I got it. What? Camo hats. We did that. Vasectomy bus. We did that. Have you perhaps tried nagging them? Yes, we've been doing that. Say, you know that whole male loneliness epidemic thing? Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Oh yeah.
A really nice place. Have you been here before?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite spots. I bring everybody here. I said I go on a lot of dates, but...
Hey men, if you don't vote for Kamala Harris, women won't you. Brilliant! Young men should know that if you vote for Trump, you're basically never going to get laid. I mean, is it incorrect? Don't think so. Trump gives girls the ick. Vote Harris, get laid. They are not beating the pretending to be progressive to get laid allegations with this one. Literally just endorsing woke fishing. When men pretend to be more progressive on dating apps to get laid. Do not do this, by the way. Be open and honest about your opinions. And no, you cannot fix them. Also, pretty weird and like low-key sexist to imply like women are some prize for voting the correct way. Hey, and if all else fails, go after the Gooner vote.
Oh! Sorry, you can't do that.
What the hell, man? How'd you get in here?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're banning porn nationwide.
I'm sorry. I love this ad. The one time they speak to men directly, and it's, hey men, the Republicans are gonna take away one of the only vices you use to numb the pain. So vote for us. Bleak. Just the absolute...
It's bleak, but I think it's good. I mean, if they had more of that, actually attacking how Republicans are gonna undermine your rights, they want to ban pornography, more of that. Just like humor, have a bit of humor, like try and bring people over. The left are considered, fuddy-duddy, politically correct, like, too sensitive. We need to bring men over with humor. Be more edgy. Say how it is sometimes with women. We need to be more honest with the problems men face and also have that conversation with women as well and go, have a conversation, talk to each other.
State of the world right now. Also, was that Germa? Believe it or not, this wasn't the worst of it.
I'm a man.
I'm a man.
I'm a man, man. And I'm man enough.
I'm man enough to enjoy a barrel-proof bourbon.
Meat. Man enough to cook my steak rare.
You think I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast.
I'll tell you another thing I sure as shit am not afraid of. Women.
When I first saw this, I thought it was a parody created by Republicans to make fun of how hard the Democratic Party is trying to pander to men to get their vote. But alas.
I love women.
I love women who support their families.
Women who decide not to have families.
Women who take charge.
And I'm man enough to help them win.
Everything from them directed towards men has to have like this tone of irony or self-deprecation. They can't even do it sincerely. But apparently white men...
I don't think that irony, I think irony would be good. A bit of like, irony about, but that seemed kind of sincere, but not in a genuine way. It seemed like too on the nose, like, trying to pander to men and like bring the gender in. Just make it more organic, make it more kind of, we want to make the country better for both men and women. The Republicans aren't going to do that. Republicans are going to cut taxes for the wealthy and get rid of abortion, and this is going to affect both men and women. What are they going to do to the economy? Actually have a message that, appeals to everybody. That's the problem. A populist message that appeals to men, women, no matter their race, sexuality. This is what you need to do, like a broader appeal. Not just, identity politics has its place, you could argue, but just step back and actually try and appeal to people. Like, offer a better alternative.
Men aren't the only demographic Kamala is struggling with.
This is the Democratic margin among black men under the age of 45 in presidential elections. You go back to November of 2012, what do you see? You see Obama by 81. Clinton only won him by 63. Then we're all the way down to Biden last time around by 53. A tremendous drop already. And then you take a look at the average of the most recent polls, and Kamala Harris is up by only 41 points.
Democrats deployed their ultimate weapon, Barack Obama. At a campaign stump for Harris on Thursday in Pittsburgh, Obama said that despite Harris raising upward of $1 billion, we have yet to see the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. That lag in energy, he added, appears, quote, to be more pronounced with the brothers. You're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. I've got a problem with that, he said, because part of it makes me think, and I'm speaking to men directly, part of it makes me think that, well, You just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman for president, and you're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that. Once again, they're only—
Again, Obama was completely wrong on this. Like, he ran a great populist campaign. He's good at, creating excitement and energy. But again, what did Kamala stand for? It's the same old status quo. She wasn't offering an alternative. That's why she lost. It's not about, black men should have to vote for a black woman just because she's black. No. What are the ideas? What is she offering men, black men, people? What is she? She didn't have anything. She had a few policies, but not anything like a meaningful change. Like, it's not about policy. It's about getting people excited. Change is coming. That's how Barack Obama. Change. We're going to change. We're going to make people's lives better. But no, she didn't. So why would people vote for her?
Only tactic seems to be getting in a man's face and going, tisk tisk bad boy. Like a dog that just peed on the carpet. It's not 2014 anymore, Barack. Nobody cares about sexism, motherfucker. We can't afford groceries. What's crazy is, as far as I know, Kamala herself has never played the woman card. She has never played the sexism card. In fact, she actively pushes against it.
You've been reluctant to lean into, to talk about the historic nature of your candidacy on the campaign trail. Why is that?
Well, I'm clearly a woman. I don't need to point that out to anyone. The point that most people really care about is, can you do the job? And do you have a plan to actually focus on them?
I was proud. It's like they finally learned from Hillary Clinton's failure. But
yeah, I think that's true. Like, that was a good element of Kamala's campaign. She wasn't just saying, oh, vote for me because I'm a woman. No, or vote for me because I'm black. But again, she didn't have the policies. So yeah, she had some policies. She was going on, abortion. She had a few policies that were good, that would actually help people. But it's not enough. You want to get people excited. You want to get people energized.
that didn't stop the media or Barack Obama from doing it for her. Thanks, Obama. For all the Zoomers, thanks, Obama was a meme in 2008. Yeah. It was funny back then. That would have slapped. While I was writing this video, Kamala and Gretchen Whitmer were getting ready to film a video at a bar together when Kamala was apparently caught on hot mic saying this.
Yeah. Oh, we have microphones and you're listening to everything. I didn't realize that. Okay. So,
You'll
now
bleep
you tell
my
us.
F words.
We just told all the family secrets. Shit.
We need to move ground with men, so what we're gonna do is pretend to drink beer at a bar. Men like beer, right?
So she was aware of it, but again, didn't do enough. How do you appeal to men? Well, listen to men, take their concerns seriously. Also know that often there's a lot of men out there who don't like women, who are, have really deeply hateful and problematic views about women. But hear them out and offer an alternative. But again, will the Democrats learn their lesson next time? Maybe, maybe not.
Cheers! Just talk about policy. Just be yourself. Just listen to men and what they want. Kamala, all you gotta do is talk. Actually, no, now that I think about it, that might make it worse. Put Tim Walz out there, okay? Let Tim Walz do the talking. Don't dress him up as a man. You wanna know how to speak to men? Go to where they are. A good place to speak to young men is the Joe Rogan podcast, which Kamala hinted at going on, but then that never happened, and instead Trump went on, and that episode hit 20 million views in a day. But
yeah, this is one of her biggest mistakes. She should have gone on there, just spoke about whatever, and actually tried to appeal to men. Listen to men and say, yeah, I want to appeal to men. But the fact she didn't even go on, didn't even make the effort, I think says so much. Yeah, you may not like Joe Rogan and his politics, but Bernie went on. He was great. He was really, popular 2019. But no, she refused it. And it kind of maybe cost her the election. Not to say that she would have convinced people, but at least try.
can you blame her? Joe Rogan is just one of the most popular podcasts in the world with a majority young male audience. I hate it here. Every time this topic comes up, so does the topic of like Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, internet algorithms, Gamergate, whatever.
There is a massive amount of right-wing radicalization that has been occurring, especially in younger male spaces. Any hobbies whatsoever, whether it's playing video games, whether it's working out, whether it's, I don't know, listening to like a history podcast or whatever, everything that they see is right-wing sentiment being expressed by individuals that they find charismatic.
But you can only blame internet algorithms for so much for so long.
But when you're being exposed to it over weeks, months, years, and you're listening to this constantly, it seeps in. So yeah, it's not everything, but it's a big part of why Trump won. Men are moving to the right. It's what they listen to. The ideas you're exposed to are very important. And people will be concerned about what they're told to be concerned about. So, yeah, it's not everything. It's material conditions, people's lives. People aren't, doing well. But they are also being fed a lot of right-wing propaganda, which is obviously making them believe what they're told to believe. And that may sound patronizing, but that is literally what propaganda is designed to do. It's doing what it's meant to do. So I'm not blaming the men, but we have to recognize the power of podcasts, social media, YouTube, and influencers to spread these ideas. And the left need to learn from that. Not just dismiss it, go, how can we create people who are more edgy, funny, got a sense of humor, bring people over, listen to them, and also, try and understand that people want to be entertained and also have good values as well. You can do both.
This automatic assumption that any dissent from liberal mainstream thought could only be caused by manipulation or brainwashing from podcasters is honestly a cope, in my opinion, and just an easy excuse for failing to reach anyone beyond your own subreddit. As if this all wasn't the result of like a stagnant neoliberal corpo hell world.
It's both. They are linked. The stagnating neoliberal corporate hell world is fueled by right-wing propaganda. They want to maintain the status quo. If anything, they want to go further back. They want to cut public spending. They might want to make people's lives worse. So I don't think it's disingenuous to say, yeah, billionaire-funded propaganda is incredibly powerful and influential for young men. It just objectively is. So yeah, doesn't let us off the hook on the left. We need to talk about more and build systems. But you can't underestimate the power.
That created a vacuum that was just waiting to be filled with any kind of populism. The crazy thing is, the Democratic Party did have a candidate who successfully spoke to the demographic that they are currently trying so hard to reach. His name was Bernie Sanders. And every time he did speak to that demographic, or say he was concerned that the Democratic Party didn't do enough to speak to that demographic, he was called a sexist, a racist, he was backstabbed multiple times, and cheated out of winning the Democratic primaries. His fans were called Bernie Bros, and constantly berated as sexists and misogynists. His campaign was too white and too male, and this apparently was a top priority to remedy in future campaigns. We were told he was—
Exactly, but when you actually offer a socialist alternative, focusing on the wealth of the billionaires, the disparity in wealth between the top and the bottom, you ain't getting in power, because the liberals, the centrists, they would never let someone like Bernie in power. So that's why you have this right-wing populism that's so powerful. It's the same in the UK with Corbyn. They would never let someone like Corbyn in power because he would actually challenge the capitalist status quo. So as soon as he said he's going for the papers, smears completely. A smear campaign of anti-Semitism, which was there, but it was blown out of proportion. If it wasn't anti-Semitism, it would have been something else. And that's what we're up against as a left. Like, liberalism is dead. How do you offer a genuine alternative when we had Bernie Sanders, who is amazing, who actually appealed to a lot of people? Like, people really like Bernie across the political spectrum. He brought people together. But people like that are never able to get in power because he would actually challenge the ruling class. He would challenge the capitalist status quo. So now we have this, but we need to go back to apologize to Bernie. We need to actually embrace his message. Leftist populism is a good thing and offer an alternative, because if we don't, we're going to continue on this trajectory.
Was just like Trump and, quote, appeal to angry white men. Well, who's trying to appeal to angry white men now, bitch? It's almost like Bernie's hyper-focus on working class issues, bread and butter issues, and populism was naturally attractive to men. No football or beer required. I miss him. And you know what? Maybe this shift with young men has less to do with who's holding the football and more of what happens when the DNC spends all their time and energy trashing the little bit of populism in their movement. And if you ask me,
which they did do. They trashed Bernie. And it's like, now, well, what do you get? If you want to appeal to the working class, you need to actually appeal to the working class. Otherwise, Donald Trump is going to do it. Again, he's not going to help working class people's living standards, but he will appeal to them. And that's what we've got to do. It's not difficult.
Conservatives a monopoly on anti-establishment rhetoric on a silver platter was probably their first mistake. They kind of gave up on that bread and butter New Deal stuff for identity politics, and if you deny this, you are either lying or coping. The physical manifestation of the left has gone from the vision of the blue-collar union worker to a nagging, scolding fat woman with blue hair, barging into everyone's spaces and culturally colonizing them. Change this, change that, I don't like this, I don't like that. It's just incredible for me to witness years of anti-male rhetoric finally come back to bite the left and Democrats in the ass. Watching these chickens come home to roost has just been both incredibly depressing and deliciously vindicating to me in a sick way, and I'm not sure if I should lend out a helping hand or Mufasa them off this fucking cliff. Some Democrats are nervous the party was too late to realize the problem. These Democrats worry that the party has focused too much on courting women voters, LGBTQ voters, and culturally progressive voters, alienating too many men in the process. There's a recognition.
But again, it doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. You could just appeal to the broad working class, working people. That transcends all that you bring people together, because most people are working class. Most people have to sell their labor to survive. So you can be intersectional. You can talk about both things. That's the frustrating thing. You can talk about LGBT rights and also the white working class male vote.
That we're losing men, and the things we're doing around men haven't been working. I think a lot of it is a reaction to social progressivism done the wrong way, says David Hogg. Young men, he says, feel like progressives look down on them for saying the wrong thing, even when it's a mistake. That discomfort is enough to drive them away from the Democratic Party, even if they don't necessarily agree with Republicans. They would rather be around someone they don't agree with who doesn't judge them than somebody they do agree with who judges them constantly. Men aren't moving right because they are choosing fascism. They are moving right because the left made them the villains in their anime fanfiction. It's not that they all like Trump, it's that they all hate you, and no amount of camo hats is going to fix that. But do not get it twisted. I do not in any way, shape, or form believe the GOP is going to help men. I don't think they're going to help anyone. Except maybe Israel. Do I think all of the left is some hyper woke fat lady wagging her finger in men's faces like no fun allowed? No. If I did, I wouldn't call myself left wing. I'm not a Democrat, I'm a registered independent. But the Democratic Party is historically better on policy, and despite their messaging, even when it comes to helping men. Healthcare, higher wages, paid family leave, labor protection, social security, things Republicans have always fought against. And I think that's why this is extra frustrating to me. I don't say this with any love for the Republican Party. In fact, if anything, I say it with love for the Democratic Party. I fucking hate them, but deep down, I wish they could be better. I'm doing this for your own good. Shh. Go sleep, shh. Go to sleep, I love you, go to sleep, shh. I just hope that whether Kamala wins or loses, the party can take a step back and evaluate what they're doing wrong. Because I don't think the Democratic Party should be the party for the gays and women. I think the Democratic Party should be the party for everyone, including angry white men. So in your opinion, what could the Democratic Party do to win back young men? Can they do anything? Are they fucked. To me, it might take decades of work to fix the culture, the rot that infests the progressive ideology. It is going to take a lot of work to fix, but I think it's worth it, not just for the Democratic Party's sake, but just for society's sake. If you like this video, please consider donating.
Yeah, so I think that's right. I think she knew that she had to appeal to men. She obviously failed in that, did not do enough, did not give a viable alternative. But the only solution is a leftist solution, a focus on class, a focus on wealth, and really show how people are being screwed over by the ruling class and offer an alternative where people's living standards will get better. The rich pay more. We can actually fund public services. But at the moment, the right aren't susceptible to that. And that's where the challenge comes, because to them, public funding is the problem. They're aspirational to being billionaires. They want to protect the billionaire class. And we've got a lot of work to do to convince people that they're the true enemy, that the people at the top who own all the wealth, the Elon Musks, the Trumps of the world, are not the ones that care about them. And it's going to be really interesting to see if people's living standards, people's lives do get better in America over the next few years, and simultaneously if they get better under Labour. Because if the investment Labour put into the public services, infrastructure, does improve people's lives, obviously you're going to have support for reform, but it will signal that things can get better if we try and invest in people and our spaces and our country. Because they talk about being patriotic, but we need to raise the money for these services that everybody relies on, especially the working people. So comment below. I know the left have got a lot of work to do. I'm not sure the Democrats in America will learn any lessons from this. But how can we appeal to people on the right? I think we need a leftist, populist message about wealth redistribution, focusing on class and working people, and making sure that people can afford housing, a big housing program, Green New Deal, all these good things. We need to be promising real change. Automation, talking about real issues that affect us, climate change. There's so much to talk about, so much to do to improve people's lives. And we're not doing it. So comment below, and I'll see you in the next video.